Hey, it's Jordan. We are in Wyoming County in Pineville, West Virginia. And this is one of the poorest communities in all of America. And obviously West Virginia is one of the poorest states. We're with Richard Altazar, who made me aware of what's going on here. Let's start where we are. We're at a friend of yours' home. And I'm looking, this is a private well that looks and smells like it came out of some weird horror movie.
Yep.
The smell is kind of like a mix of sulfur and some other stuff. But
Sewer.
Sewer,
Yep.
and it goes straight up your nose. Tell me, oh, the creek, that's Indian Creek over there?
That's Indian Creek right there. Yep.
And so tell me from the top, about a little over a year ago, you guys started to notice discolored water.
Back in February of last year, around the 12th, Jamie, the owner of the trailer, calls me, and this whole place looks like a lake. He just woke up one morning.
This whole backyard right here?
Yes,
Okay.
the whole front, everything. Well, he thought he had a water leak, and when he took a shovel and shoveled, phew, it spewed out like oil, and it hit him in the face. And he didn't realize the magnitude of it until he started seeing the slurry, chemical, it looked like a chemical-based oil coming out. And then after I got down here, we put a little ditch towards the creek because the DEP come out here that day.
DEP is the
West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection told him to go ahead and put it in the creek because it was getting around his heat pump and they was afraid it was going to get electrocuted. And after we was here for a while, we noticed what was coming out over in the other lot of another artesian well. And it was something out of a war scene. I mean, this was nothing compared to what we had coming out over in the other field.
So a private well, private water wells, residents all over this community, most of them have water wells, and it's supposed to be water from the aquifer.
Yes.
But that looks like
it's coming from a coal mine. They're
Right.
saying it's coming from a coal mine, yeah.
and there's coal mines all over the place here.
Yes. There's one right there that went bankrupt in 2017, and it's supposed to be as big as Chicago.
Wow.
Underneath. And they said it filled up with water. And that's why it started coming out artesian. That's their theory. But the community has different theories of what's going on here. We've tested all the water, none of it matches.
Meaning the Department of Environmental Protection,
Right.
they tested, they say everything's fine, which I've heard in many other places.
Yes.
It's always fine when they
Yes.
test it. But independent testing that you guys did had very, very high levels of what?
Arsenic, the iron was 2 million, the arsenic was 388, and then whatever else was on that.
Lead was
Yeah.
about 2 something.
Yeah, it was real, it was just, you
Yeah.
know, through the roof.
Lead is supposed to be 15 parts per billion, which by the way is a nonsense number anyway. It's supposed to be 0. The arsenic, I believe, was a couple hundred times higher than it's supposed to be. Also shouldn't have arsenic in your water. And iron, it was about, what, 2 million
2
on
million.
that test?
2 million.
And iron, when you have high levels of iron, it breeds bacteria. That's part of what happened in Flint. But I want to talk about, you got white stuff, black stuff. I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but it sure looks like there's some sediment in there. And I've never been down in a coal mine, but you know the coal mines around here.
Yeah.
Does this kind of look like it could have some contamination from there?
Yes, the University of Virginia Tech come in here, the biologist and said, that's a living organism, it's growing. And you'll see over to artesian well that it's growing. And this never froze over this winter, and neither did that over there in the ditch. Now the creek froze right through here, but that never froze. So it's pretty much mine water. And how it got here is the question.
Right.
And it's making, It's done contaminated people's wells down the creek. Everybody on this road's on city water, but as you go off to these side roads, they're all on well water. And we find this to be consistent with what's in some of them's well water.
Well, also the creek is what, 100 feet, 200 feet?
Yes, well, you're not gonna believe what you see over here. Well, we'll go over here in a minute. But this was tame compared to what we found over yonder back in February of last year. See, walk over here, you'll be able to see it.
You smell that?
That used to be that pipe. Well, to go in court and tell them that it slowed down, they yanked the pipe out so the hole would get bigger so they could go in there and say the flow slowed down. But actually it didn't, it's picked up.
We're mic'd up? So I want to explain for the audience, that big ass hole used to be a pipe?
Right there, yep,
Oh.
look. That's been running for a year now and ain't done nothing. But this whole field, that orange and white stuff was coming out of that pipe. In my video, right? Well, to go into court and tell them that it was slowing down, they yanked the pipe out. The hole got bigger and slowed it down a little bit.
So they took the pipe out in order to, what?
They wasn't supposed to. They were supposed to just cut it off, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, they said it broke off, it rusted, but if you look, ain't no rust on them pipes. They broke it off so they could go in court and say the water flow was slowing down.
Ah.
Right? And the guy, the engineering company that did this, you ought to read his mission statement. His specialty is hiding shit from the public. I'll send it to you.
This looks like a sinkhole dam in the water.
Yep.
Can you come over here without falling in? Yeah. It's a little bumpy over there.
Yeah.
And just so the audience knows, it's like sulfur, but stronger than sulfur.
This never froze.
It
That
smells-
never froze this winter. The creek froze, but that never froze.
It's a rotten, really rotten smell.
And that's some kind of oil base.
Yeah, right here
Right
is
there, yeah.
some type of.
And you'll see the white stringy stuff down through there. That's a living organism.
So why would there be kind of like this sheen, if not some type of capped oil well? Or?
No, it is probably off the machinery that they left down in the mines when they flooded it.
Jesus.
It's cheaper to leave it down there and bring it out. It's some kind of oil base.
And you see that little black pocket swimming there? That little small little. So you got like a oil sheen here, a sinkhole under the creek there, some type of really it'll hit you in the face sulfur, and it normally it freezes in the winter.
No,
right?
this never froze.
No, oh, never froze.
Never froze. Everything else froze around here, but this.
Huh.
That's why they're sick. They're smelling this all day, every day. And they should have done moved these people out of here. But once again, when somebody comes in here and pays them, like Bluestone, say Bluestone didn't cause any of this. As soon as they pay Jamie and them the money to move out of here, they're gonna say, well, you took responsibility for it. And to me, that's what's going on. They're all pointing fingers.
To be clear, Bluestone is the governor's mine, and if they move the family here out, like you said, they own it. They're claiming
guilt.
Responsibility.
Nobody wants to admit guilt. We're trespassing. Been doing it all year. Any other mines would have done thrown us in jail for trespassing. But as soon as they do, they have to own up that they own this land. See, the DEP said this was all Bluestone. Well, we got an app. Well, I went to the courthouse, found a deed. This belongs to Alpha. Property line comes right through here, runs right through here, and runs right up to that tree. Goes all the way back in here. Alpha bought this land off the governor. 75 acres for $10,000. I don't know about you, but I'd love to have got that deal.
That's a pretty good deal.
That's a pretty good deal.
And let me ask you, does this run all the way down into the creek?
We're getting ready to walk down there. Right there's their filter system. The DEP decided they was going to let it run in the field for 4 months. Then they decided to put it in the creek.
So the DEP, did they admit that the original source of the contamination was from the coal mine? Where did they say the water's coming from, the contaminated water?
Well, they said that it come from 8 Hollage, which is a mile up the road. This all filled in. But in court, they said they didn't think it was going to come out here. They thought it would come out at 8 Hollage, a mile up the road, because they left boreholes for it. But it come out here. And really, they can't explain it. But they said that this water...
Would you say that the environmental department here and the coal industry are a little connected,
well, what I can say, that some of the Department of Environmental Protection inspectors left the DEP and now working at the coal mines.
Uh-huh.
And that seems to be a habit with these people.
Right.
But now the DEP only goes by what's in their computer. They don't really investigate. They don't come out here and talk to the community. They don't know what's going on. They still think it's coming from the mines. Bankruptcy mines up the road here. Right. It makes sense, because if you pin it on a bankruptcy mines, everybody walks away scot-free, and the taxpayers has to pay for all this.
But obviously, if the creek's right there and the creek has been contaminated, it's right next to the private wells. So
okay, but once again,
is it easy for those creeks over there to contaminate the wells?
Yes. Once again, though, the DEP and their reasoning is they're required to only test for 4 things. They don't test for the metals, the arsenic, the high iron and stuff. They can go into court and say that water's fine. And really, they're not lying by their standards. That's why, you know, they're trying to lower the EPA. West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morris is suing the EPA right now to lower standards on water and air quality. The air quality around here hasn't been checked in 25 years. And it's supposed to be checked, I think, once every 5 years.
And you got a big cancer problem here.
That's exactly right. The cancer rate has exploded in this neighborhood. We had 2 brothers just up the road just pass away. One of them was completely healthy of April of last year. He went to the doctor, he lost weight, cut him open, sewed him up, sent him home, died 2 days later with hospice. They still don't know what happened to him.
And there's a lot of residents with private water wells.
Exactly.
That have been contaminated, that are going to the doctor and expressing nausea,
right,
vomiting, diarrhea,
right,
headaches.
We just found that out probably a month ago. A nurse called me. She worked for a local place, and she had just found out about all this. She said that explained why they were having to work late. They had an explosion of all these symptoms that's coming from this contaminated water.
And can you talk about the home we're at now? I know they're inside. Animals died here?
Yes, he's had a dog die and a bunch of chickens, and that's been all the way down the creek. People has experienced that. We'll go.
Do they drink from the creek?
Well, I mean, it's hard to keep your animals from not drinking out of the creek, but that's why he's chained his up. He usually lets some of them run wild, but down the creek, that we've had wells explode on people. We had one guy that was put in the hospital with 3rd-degree burns. And it's all coming because they're mining in there, and it's a gassy mines. And they went in here and they capped some wells, we think, that's my theory. And the chemicals they used is coming up in this water now too. We're getting hit by 2 or 3 industries as we speak right now. We're getting hit by the coal mines, we're getting hit by the gas companies, and all this because they're having to cap all these wells before they can mine.
Did the biologist from Virginia Tech mention that any of the chemicals they were finding could be byproducts of coal mining?
Yes, it's consistent with mine water. Everything they tested is consistent with mine water. It's just there's other chemicals like the foam that we see in the creeks. I had it tested. The West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection told people down the creek that that was natural. I had it tested. No, it's some kind of industrial cleaner is what it is. Right. And I have the results of that too. And I just handed it over to them because they don't seem to know how to do all that.
And my last question before we move on, your governor, a billionaire, who's running for Senate, was a billionaire, excuse me, who's running for Senate now, he owns a coal empire, and he owns a bunch of coal mines down here. Again, we can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, but it's possible that some of his mines and the state environmental department will not give him any more permits,
Right.
because he owes, by my research, a couple $100 million in taxes and cleanups that he hasn't done of mines. Is it possible that any of this contamination is from some of his mines?
Well, they're in litigation right now. Bluestone.
Bluestone is Governor
Governor's,
Justice's
yes.
coal mine.
And then there's Alpha Metallurgical Resources, Pinnacle, which is Pinwin Wind Down, which is a bankruptcy company. They're all in court, and the DEP fighting each other, trying to see who's at fault. And meanwhile, everybody's getting poisoned. This has been going on for a year.
Right.
You know, instead of somebody stepping up, taking responsibility, as soon as they do, then they're gonna have to pay for everything.
And the homeowner here with this contaminated well, they're sick.
Oh yes. Yeah, they've been sick for, well, I found the man passed out in the yard one day. Because when that over there, when we get over there and this, when it's warm, it stinks to high heaven.
It stinks right now and it's
yes.
cold.
Yeah. Imagine when it's warm, and the governor owns all this land. They're on a leased land, so they don't say much. But most people in this area are on leased land by the governor and other mines, and they're scared to say anything because they can make them leave. They got no other place to go. Where are they gonna go? You know, they have no other means to go anywhere.
And were they healthy for the most part before this happened last year?
Yeah. Yeah, I think his iron, after we got down in this, see, we both got down in here and put this thing so it'd get away from his trailer so it wouldn't electrocute him. His iron in his system was 3 times higher than what it's supposed to be. And I haven't had my blood work done yet, but I feel pretty good. But now he stays sick, and so does she. She don't even come out of the house anymore, hardly.
But again, they were healthy before this
Yes.
contamination a year ago, and they're relatively young. They're not too old.
No, they're young. They're in their 30s.
Wow.
30s, maybe mid 30s, early 40s. I don't know. I really don't ask them their age, but yeah, they were healthy. And
So dead animals, sick, you know, young adults. Has the media been covering this here at all?
well, the local news is WVVA. They did come out here and do a little story, but then Alpha, one of the mines in the lawsuit, started running commercials on their TV of a mornings at 6, 6:30, 7.
Ain't that interesting?
Well, you can read into it what you want to, but
Well, I'll say it.
and
Like in Michigan and many other places, corporations own the media and they advertise, and that's a blatant conflict of interest. So my assumption is they did 1 or 2 stories and that's been about it. Oh, one.
They did one. Now, 59 News come down here the other day, and she did a story on the phone and stuff, but that's all. They, you know, but they were nice and they did try. And the story here should be is the people that was supposed to protect us didn't protect us. They just rode whatever the mine said, and they just did whatever the mines wanted them to do. They're killing people for money. They're killing people for money. You might not see it now, but I tell everybody, if your daughter lives down the creek, marries a boy from Beckley, and when they're 40, they got 3 kids, she dies of cancer because of all this, and he's stuck raising 4 kids. Is that worth it? Is it worth it? It's not worth it. Somebody needs to get in here and fix this mess. Like they were supposed to have. They knew this was going to come out here. They had a year to prepare for it, and they didn't do it. So there's your West Virginia Environmental Protection protecting you right there. And Morrissey, Attorney General, his office defends all this stuff. That is a fact. People need to look. People votes, they need to get in there and look who they're voting for. Quit going by the name down here. If you see Manchin, Manchin's been in politics all of his life. They go in there, they see the name, they vote for him. Find out who you're voting for. This is a product of you voting for the wrong people.
Morrissey's running for governor, right?
Yes.
And he's the one trying to loosen regulations
Exactly.
right now.
He's got lawsuits in against the EPA right now. You know the commercial where he says he sues Biden and he wins a lot? This is what you won. Vote for Morrissey, this is what you won.
Can you come down here for a second? I want to ask something.
You can tell I get angry.
I would
They're
too.
killing my friends and people.